Hello everybody, Robin here at Toadstool Tarot, and I am today doing a video response to a hashtag Tarot Extremes, originated by Marlene Theresa. It has 7 pairings of extremes in decks, and when I get started with the prompts, you'll know what I mean. So prompt number 1 is Minimalist versus Maximilist. For my Minimalist, I chose my Eyes Wide Tarot. And for perhaps obvious reasons, there's not very much on each card. Just the basics, illustrated in a very minimalist style. This is available at makeplayingcards.com. The most basic in terms of line illustration for the cards, and fairly colorful if I say so myself. That's the Eyes Wide Tarot for minimalist decks. Maximalist, I chose the Jackolantern Tarot. And that's because I did a walkthrough of this deck and I found that there were a lot of details on each card. A lot of symbols to dig through, delve in. Most of the images are fairly close up and crowded with symbols. The next pairing is daytime versus nighttime. For daytime, I chose the Harmonious Tarot because I tend to sort of like pre-Raphaelite, Victorian era styles, and most of these take place in daylight outdoor gardens. This deck makes me actually want to go outside and take a walk in the park or sit under a shade tree. I'm not much of a gardener, but I will do those other things. The colors are bright yet soft and warm, not really harsh. So that is the Harmonious Tarot with illustrations by Walter Crane. For nighttime, I chose an odd deck, sometimes referred to as the Goldfoil Tarot, and sometimes referred to as Leapblue Tarot, or the Leapblue Goldfoil Tarot. The reason I chose this one isn't so much because of the darkness of the cards or a night feel to the cards, but because these cards are plastic and metallic, highly reflective, and so while they may be a little overwhelming on bright light, in the dark you don't need very much light to read these cards. They're almost self-illuminating, so they're sort of perfect for night readings when the lights are low or by candlelight. And it has these wonderfully accented optical art patterns in the backgrounds, and they're all different. It's very similar to the Neo Rider, I think, Shadow deck or something, but this one has patterns, and all those plastic cards are slippery, but this one's less slippery. It has a little bit more of a texture to hold on to than the Neo Rider deck does, and I just find it really stunning, particularly in low light. It's almost like each card has night lights built right into it. So that is the Leapblue or Goldfoil Tarot. Look carefully online because there are a few variations on this deck with different patterns, different names. Some have borders that are different. Next pairing is Best Shuffle versus Worst Shuffle. For me, the best shuffle is this RWS deck from Make Playing Cards. I have several decks in my choices that are from Make Playing Cards, and I absolutely love their card stock. I don't think I've gotten a deck yet from them that I didn't like. They're superior, smooth. I can't remember the numbers, like S30 and S33, I believe, are the only two I've gotten. No, I think I got a linen one from them too, but I haven't gotten a deck from them yet that I didn't like the card stock on. And this shuffles very easily for me. Of course, I only overhand shuffle, but I think it would shuffle as easy, if not easier, by riffle shuffling, which I don't do. Now, the worst shuffle is this very scarce deck I got. It's called the Keishobou Tarot, and it has the most beautiful images and palette on it, combining the RWS and the Tarot de Marseille, but the cardstock does not glide. It tends to clump together, and it's very cardboardy. But the images are stunning. I refer to this one affectionately as the deck of the blondes, because all the characters in it are blonde. And I have been debating scanning these and making a copy on MPC for my personal use, because I'm not getting much use out of them because of the difficulty in handling them and shuffling them. That's the Keishobou tarot. The next pairing, number 4, is Confronting versus Comforting. For Confronting, I picked the Dante tarot, and this is out of print, I believe. I find the images, there's the backs, I find the images really beautiful. What is confronting about it for me is that the suits have different names, the system is different than the RWS. I just haven't studied it enough, but I think what's confronting is because it's a different system, I can't readily just glance at the cards and know which card they are. It requires more study to be able to use them, and I haven't delved into it. It's too deep a dive for me at the moment. And also I think it's heavily related to the work of Dante, with which I am unfamiliar. So this kind of confronts me in that it challenges whether or not I'm willing to put in the work on it, or if there's a way that I can intuit from the images what I need to know. That's the Dante tarot. There is a more recent Dante tarot, and that one is very similar in that the cards are beautiful, the artwork, but the system, again, is very difficult or challenging to an RWS reader. As to the comforting deck, no, this will be no surprise to anyone. My favorite is the Lunne tarot, with very colorful yet soft imagery. Very gentle pictures. Nothing upsetting. Every card is sort of like a warm hug. Even that one. That's the Lunne. The next pairing is everyday versus every so often. For the everyday, I have picked the Open Face Tarot, which is a deck I designed, also available at MPC, MakePlayingCards.com. And this one is just very direct to my subconscious. Again, nothing too frightening or horrifying, fairly gentle. Every open face has a sort of a wonder or awe about it. Even the devil is not particularly frightening. This is the regular size without titles. I also have them with titles, and I also have a mini version, which I tend to use pretty much every day. I just pulled this one out so it's easier for you to see the cards in a tarot size card. Oh, and it's a majors only deck, I should say. A lot of people have problems not having those extra cards. But I find this works for me just with these 22 perfectly fine. Every so often I picked the Golden Tarot from Cat Black, which I recently rediscovered. I mean, I've had it in my collection for ages, but you sometimes find a deck you don't quite connect with initially, or you do, but not so much. And then you put it on a shelf, and then you bring it out later, and you really appreciate it. And that's what I'm going through at the moment. So this is every so often the Golden Tarot. Computer collaged better than any other deck I've been across yet, with medieval or Renaissance painted imagery, and it is like a visit to an art museum, which I also only do every so often, even though we've got some fine ones here in New York City. Now we have number 6, overrated and underrated. The overrated, sorry, I picked the Thoth because it's a favorite for a lot of people. And this is another one that maybe it's just I find overrated because so many people talk and rave about it, and some of the images are pretty, but I just can't quite embrace the system. I have 3 copies of this deck. One is in a larger card that I trimmed the borders off, and then I have a mini one that's beautiful that already had the borders trimmed off. And then this one is sort of bridge size cards, which is kind of my favorite size of the 3. It's the most usable, and yet I find I can't yet use these cards. I don't know. There's something about the courts being renamed. Some of the cards are renamed, and I'm just not sure about the key words on them. So it's just, I'm not there yet. Maybe someday I will be, but at the moment it just feels overrated to me. Now, underrated, I think, is the Tarot, the Tarot des Ozarks. And this one is, strictly speaking, not a Tarot de Marseille, although it's very much in keeping with those kinds of cards. But each card is beautifully painted. This one also is a great one for daylight, outdoors. These colors really are gorgeous in sunlight. If you ever want to take this deck outside and look at it, it's quite stunning. And you can see for each of the suits, they don't stick to the same color pattern. They're full of different colors, which sort of takes away from the boring quality of some Marseille decks where you get the same colors in every number of the suit. This one's bright and lively and gives life to the Tarot de Marseille. It's a little bit quirky, but I absolutely love it. So I think that's an underrated deck that people need to give more attention to. The next deck, or the next pairing, is Lightwork versus Shadowwork. Now, I think I define this a little different. I picked the Spectrowhirl Tarot. And for me, this is not about the work so much as the colors and the imagery. They have black borders, but within those black borders, there is a lot of light and color on these cards. And they may not be easy to read, a lot of them intuitively. Some of them are, and some aren't. But if you're familiar with the RWS, you can see they have the labels on the bottom, and if you do get stuck with the imagery, you can identify them by the label. Sorry, I seem to have pulled quite a few samples from this deck to show you. See, now here's the 9 of Swords, and you can visualize those 9 swords on the wall of the RWS over the bed. Judgment with the bugle. The 8 of Pentacles. So some of them are a little more readily identifiable than others. That is the Spectrowhirl Tarot. And lastly, for Shadowwork, I picked the Tiny Traveler Sasuraibito Tarot. Now, these are dark cards. Some of the images are joyful to an extent, but they all feel like they are dealing with something emotionally challenging or potentially difficult. There's a very melancholy feel to this deck. So this is I don't really do shadow work, I don't think, unless I just sort of do it as part of my daily draw. I tend to sort of pull out the dark side of things, or things I tend to be more pessimistic about. I'm still not clear on what shadow work is all about, but I try to look at, shall we say, Joni Mitchell's both sides now when it comes to the cards. So that is the Sasuraibito for shadow work. And I would thank everybody who bothered to take the time to watch this little video response to Tarot Extremes by Marlene Theresa. I thank her for creating it, and I hope you will join in and give it a shot yourself. See you all next time.